When I first got to Washington, D.C., and I think in 1998, I was a 27-something, and I was a new lobbyist in Washington, D.C., young, bright-eyed, excited, trying to create trouble wherever I went. And the person my union had access to at the White House was Ibarra, because at that point he was working for President Bill Clinton, which I'll read you his professional bio in a bit. But I never felt intimidated by calling Mickey Ibarra's office, because he was always very kind with his time, and I know when you are at that high levels of government, you don't have a lot of time. But he was never inaccessible. He was always eager to talk to a young Latina lobbyist in Washington, D.C., because there weren't that many of us. So I think he could count them with his fingers. So whenever he saw us coming into the White House with an issue, and my issue was always around labor issues, and he was the labor guy coming from the NJEA, and he was always had an open ear and just a kindness to open the doors for young Latino policy and lobbying. So for that, I always had a very special place in my heart for Mickey, because he opened the doors of access in Washington, D.C. for a young person. So thank you for that, and it's an honor for me to introduce him to you, because he will share with you the insight that got him to the levels of power that he has gotten to in Washington, D.C. The Honorable Mickey Ibarra is the president of the Ibarra Strategy Group, a government relations and public affairs firm in Washington, D.C. He's the founder and chairman of Latina Leaders Network, a nonprofit organization dedicated to bringing leaders together, and he does that all the time. Honorable Mickey Ibarra was appointed assistant to the President Bill Clinton and the Director of Governmental Affairs at the White House in 1997. He began his career as a teacher. Maybe that's where his humbleness comes from, being a teacher in front of young people in Utah. And before he joined the National Association of National Education Association, the NJEA. The Honorable Ibarra is a graduate of the University of Utah, where he was awarded an honorary doctorate of humane letters in 2007. He's currently writing a book on leadership. We can't wait to buy it, because I know he has some wonderful insights to give us about how to be an effective leader. And like Angel said, we hope to get him back next year so he can sign his new book, right? Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome this year's keynote speaker, the Honorable Mickey Ibarra.
Thank you so much, Patricia. And Patricia has just demonstrated something that is so important. I'm going to stop right here and share it. I'm going to introduce my book in just a bit, actually my first book, my little book of tips. And Patricia just hit on one of them that is so important. Assistant to the President and Director of the Office of Intergovernmental Affairs in the West Wing of the White House. I remember taking a piece of masking tape and my dark little marker and writing on that tape, always remember. While it's nice to be important, it's important to be nice. Always. You know, long after leaving the White House, those few in this audience that approach me, seldom is about the issues that we struggled with at the White House to move our nation forward. Seldom about balancing the budget. Seldom about being the only president for a long, long time to reduce our national debt. It is most often about, thank you so much for answering my call. Thank you so much for allowing me to attend a reception at the White House. Thank you so much for that letter of condolence from President Bill Clinton at the passing of my mother, my father, a child. It's those personal niceties that are essential to building and maintaining relationships that will serve you well in life, it will serve you well in your profession, and it will serve you well as an elected or appointed official. Remember, it's nice to be important, and it's important to be nice. Never forget that. Never forget that. There are several other acknowledgments I want to make, and of course, Assemblyman Fuentes. What a leader. What a champion for our community. A unifier. And what a planner. I received my invitation to speak tonight in February, 8 months before this event. And I'm glad I showed up. I'm glad I showed up. So thank you. And Joe, who I just met, Cardona, from this university, what a terrific institution. And to be a part of building something that is serving, obviously, underserved communities in such an important way. Really, congratulations to you and Dr. Ollie. I had a chance to meet Dr. Ollie at the reception earlier, and I told him I just love being next to a president. And then also, I want to thank our local officials. I'm glad they were acknowledged. I met a number of mayors today, councilwoman, deputy mayor, state legislators. You know, working at the White House and being responsible for serving as all of their liaison to the President of the United States was perhaps the highest honor I will ever receive. And what I established with the President from the beginning is to understand that our mission at the Office of Intergovernmental Affairs only had 2 items on the agenda. One, to build support for the President's policy initiatives, and second, to respond to the concerns of our partners in government. And that meant an attitude, not just a responsibility. So I thank all of our local and state elected officials and the appointed officials here for doing the necessary work to make our communities a better place for everyone to live. Thank you very much. I'm going to accomplish 3 things in 15 minutes. So all I need is 15 minutes of your time. We're going to talk, I'm going to share my story. I want you to know it. I want you to leave knowing who Mickey Ibarra is and where he came from. Secondly, I want to reflect and share several White House memories. And thirdly, I want to leave you with several of my tips that I just referenced earlier. Let me start with Francisco Nicolás Santiago Ibarra, who came from Oaxaca, Mexico, Aztec Indio. A bracero, the farm labor program for you young people in the room, a farm labor program established by the U.S. Department of Labor to bring Mexican farm workers to the United States to harvest the crops to feed our nation at a time of war. Dad was 15 years old in 1945. He figured out how to get past the H issue. You're supposed to be 18. Landed his first assignment in Spanish Fork, Utah. Many years later, I'd land my first job in Spanish Fork, Utah, as a high school teacher of at-risk students. In a single generation, how life could change. Now, Dad quickly learned that there had to be another way to earn a living than the fields. For him, his opportunity came at Kennecott Copper Mine, just outside of Salt Lake City. Dad became a miner, a union job, better benefits, higher salary, more stability, a union job. He became a member of the powder gang. Those are the guys that sunk the deep holes into the earth, stuffed them with explosives, and then got out of the way before they were ignited. The powder gang. During that time, Dad got drafted by the long arm of the United States Army during the Korean conflict. He became a soldier, returned to Kennecott with a valuable new benefit, the GI Bill for education and much more. He started back at the mine, but he used the GI Bill to enroll in college, the Hollywood Beauty College in downtown Salt Lake City. Francisco Ibarra became a hairstylist. Left Utah and opened his dream, his own business, the Mona Lisa House of Beauty. And for 30 years, Dad had it going on. Frankie at the Mona Lisa. Dad, of course, is now retired. I was just with him in Los Angeles to help him celebrate his 86th birthday. When I see Dad, it gives me hope for a longer future. I'm so happy to have him still here with us. But there's more to my story. You see, when my father and mother were married, she was 16 years old. My brother came, I was born, she was 16, my brother came 11 months later. Mickey and Dave. Well, by the time I was 2 years old, they had divorced, and my father was overseas in the military. My mother relinquished custody of us both to the state of Utah. And for nearly 13 years, we remained in foster care. There's a lot more to this story, but that's the essential point. We were so fortunate that good people like all of you in this room, stepped forward to help two little boys find their way in the right way. Today, David is a very successful member of the Salt Lake City business community. In fact, I introduced my brother as the success in our family. We reunited long ago with my mother. But I'm so proud of Francisco Ibarra. When I think of the obstacles that David and I were confronted with, I still believe they pale by comparison to the obstacles that a young boy coming to a new country, not speaking the language, with a little education, and confronting such raw racism in America at that time. We still have racism in America. You all know that, and you feel it. We've made progress, to be sure, and yet I can't think of a single reason to be satisfied. Can you? Not one. But again, I congratulate my father. I consider him the hero who overcame so much. The White House. Again, an opportunity of a lifetime. President Bill Clinton appointing me in 1997 to the highest rank at the White House, assistant to the president. I mean, to have a front row seat for nearly 4 years to history in the making, to witness impeachment and our acquittal, to be a part of an administration that oversaw 8 years of prosperity and peace for our country. A tremendous privilege. I mean, I have so many memories I could share. Actually watching the movie Air Force One, on Air Force One, with the President of the United States, on a trip from Las Vegas to Andrews Airport. You know something, there's someone in the audience that I didn't acknowledge and I wanted to. She was so kind to travel with me from Washington, to keep me awake and take care of me. And I want to thank Kathy Collins. And Kathy, I can't see you, so I'd like you to come and sit over here by my help. Okay? Yeah. By day, Kathy's got a wonderful story in her own right. By day, Kathy is the Director of Finance for the American Chemical Society in Washington, D.C. This is a woman that can count. So, other memories. President Clinton only convened 2 white tie dinners, state dinners at the White House in the 8 years. In the 8, only 2 white tie dinners. One for the Emperor of Japan, and the second, I had the privilege to join him to welcome King Juan Carlos de Bourbon and Queen Sofia of Spain. Wow. Being introduced by President Clinton to President-elect Vicente Fox of Mexico to the White House. I mean, amazing memories. Amazing, amazing memories. And yet the one I want to share with you tonight took place in 1999. It was Christmas time. That's a special time of the year for all of us to be sure. But at the White House, the smell of the fireplace, the smell of the decorations and trees, and a number of holiday receptions hosted by the President and the First Lady. And guess who got invited to the White House for his very first visit? And his only visit. Francisco Nicolás Santiago Ibarra. That's a long ways away from Spanish Fork, Utah. I'll tell you that. I remember alerting the Secret Service that we had a very, very important person arriving that day to join me for a holiday reception with the President. And that when he arrived, that was my father, and when he arrived, please call, because I want to come out and greet him. So they called, your dad's here. I walked down the short walk from the West Wing to the appointment gate. My dad came through. The look on his face confirmed everything else he told me. He looked around and said, I can't believe they let me in here. And then he said, do you really work here? Then he quickly said, do I look okay? Do I look okay? We went to my office, and a short time later escorted my dad to the the mansion, the main White House residence, for a reception. Where by tradition, President Clinton always took photos with every single guest. You lined up, and we lined up. So, when it's our turn, they call us forward, we come up, Mr. President Francisco Ibarra, my father. My dad's 5'3". President Clinton's a tall man. My dad's looking up like this. And the president reaches his hand out, shakes it, looks at my dad. Sir, your son is doing an outstanding job for us here at the White House. Thank you for his service. Oh, I'll tell you what, President Clinton helped me learn another lesson. When you're nice to someone's child, when you go out of your way to help them, when you treat them with respect and courtesy, you have them for life, forever. Dad still couldn't talk. I mean, he absolutely lost his voice. The president looked at him, bent over, put his arm around him, brought him in close. We took a photo, we walked out. Dad still couldn't talk. But when we left the White House, I'm telling you, every cab driver, every doorman, every server, he would stop people in the middle of the street. The president called me sir. But again, I now know, of course, why Dad couldn't talk. I mean, he was just flat out overcome by emotion. From Oaxaca, a little barefooted Indian kid, to figure out how to get in the Bracero program, getting himself to this country. My dad was undocumented for 30 years. My dad had to be one of the few folks that figured out how to serve in the United States Army and still come out without your papers. He was just overwhelmed. But it is a lesson. It is a lesson worth listening to. Because in a single generation, my father was able to see the potential of this nation. The potential of this nation and the contribution that Latinos can make at the highest level. At the highest level. So God bless America. I could have came here tonight and walked you through everything that's wrong with this country and the challenge that the Latino community continue to confront. And yet, I think you've had a lot of that today. What I wanted to remind everybody of, well, this nation is not perfect. We are not done yet either. We're not done yet. And all of you in this room are going to continue to make us a better country. Okay, my story, the White House, tips for success. I'm at the age now in my career. It's hard for me to accept this, but I'm getting used to it. I'm now a senior. What? How did that happen? I have now spent 30 years in our nation's capital. 30. Actually 31. But when I thought of my book, it really was a part of, and me being here tonight is also a part of a bigger decision that I have made. My responsibility to share with others what I have learned. Few have had the opportunities or the experiences that Mickey Ibarra has enjoyed. Shame on me, if I leave this earth having not done all that I can do to speak, to write, to teach, to share what I have learned, so that others may gain knowledge and benefit from that. So, my little book. What it was is, my staff came to me one day, and I've had my business now 14 years, and said, Mickey, you know, there are some things you say so often. We in the office call them Mickeyisms. You ought to write a book. And so I did. Mickeyisms, 30 Tips for Success. Tying into the 30 years I have spent in Washington. Now, let me confess, I don't believe I've ever had an original idea in my life. I don't pretend that anything in this little book is original. But let me tell you what I do know. Every tip in this book has helped me succeed. Whatever challenge I faced as a classroom teacher, I started at the top in my career as a teacher. Some would argue I've been working my way down ever since. But I'll tell you, these tips have helped me, and I hope they'll help you. Mickeyisms 30 Tips for Success is available at lulu.com. That's just LULU.com for those that would like to get a copy. And for those that can't afford a copy, you send me an email and I'll give you a copy. How's that? Okay, so what's your email address? M-I-C-K-E-Y at Ibarra, I-B-A-R-R-A, strategy.com. Okay? You remind me of this commitment. Look at your book. What I wanted to do was just to share in a very short fashion, and it's accompanied with a photo, a personal photo that would make the point. 3 of those 30 tips I want to share with you. First, I'm amazed. There is the most powerful word in the English language. The most powerful word in the English language. And it only has 3 letters. 3 letters. What's the word? Go ahead, stand up. What's the word? Well, 3-letter word. Can? Yes. Yes. No. A-S-K. Ask. The most powerful word in the English language. I mean, do you really expect people to guess or to know what you want or need? Do you really expect them to get it? Ask for it. Ask for it. Overcome your fear of being rejected. No. It's a painful word. Asking will not guarantee your success, but I'll guarantee you it'll greatly enhance your chances. Remember to ask. Number 2, politics. Politics. Something near and dear to my heart. And I guess a lot of folks in this room. I love politics. Campaigns and election, that's been a part of my life forever. I don't professionally do campaigns and elections any longer. That's not my business. I'm a volunteer like so many of you. That way I can always say no. And President Clinton taught us that winning in politics is about addition and multiplication. Addition and multiplication. Losing at politics is about subtraction and division. Subtraction and division. Hello, Donald Trump. Ask yourself, am I adding? Am I multiplying? Do I really want to win? Or are you subtracting and dividing? Always be on the side of adding and multiplying. And you will win. You will win elections. You will win policy campaigns. You will win in life. And you will win in your profession. Bring people together. That's what it's about. Finally, show up. Show up. 80% of success in life is just about showing up. Showing up. People in Washington often say to me, Mickey, you know everybody. No, I don't. But I'm not done yet either. I want to keep showing up and showing up to meet those that I should meet and that I should know. So, that's my story. That's the White House. A few tips for success. All the young people in this room, anybody else would like to join in, remember, if it can happen to me, it can happen to you. It can. If you'll prepare yourself for opportunities that you can't perhaps even dream possible, you'll have those opportunities to succeed and to excel and to take our community with you to a higher level. Thank you, everyone in this room, for showing up tonight. And always, always dream big. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for those wonderful remarks, Ms. Didn't I tell you he's just awesome? Thank you for spending time with us here in New Jersey.